And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Angie Atkinson, and I am here with the lovely and talented Lise Colucci. Lise, welcome back.
Thank you. Welcome back to Angie. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I
mean, good to see you.
Pretty much where we're at, right? Okay.
That's where we're at. Yeah.
All right, everybody. So for those of you who don't know Lise, she is my partner at cleaning.com. She's amazing. You're going to love her if you haven't met her already. And we're just going to jump in, actually, in a moment. So as you are coming into the stream today, please take a look at the chat, as you will see our team coming in with reminders and places that you can find us and connect with us, different things like this. So let's just jump in. Lise, thoughts on being raised by a narcissist?
Starting where?
Well, let's start with, something really simple. Let's start with signs of being raised by a narcissist. So first of all, let's define a narcissistic parent, should we?
Yes.
Yeah. So a narcissistic parent is going to be someone who is, okay, sorry, someone just came to my office. So a narcissistic parent is going to be someone who is, oh, here comes the reminders. Someone who is a toxic person, someone who has no empathy for their children, someone who makes it all about them and less about, children. What else, Lise? What else would you add to that?
Controlling, enmeshed. They don't let you be your own person, have your own life. They don't see you as a whole person. They see you as an extension of themselves. They put their children in roles that they need to stick to, like scapegoats or golden child or whatever. And you may not recognize that's what's happening, but when you're a scapegoat, you pretty much feel like a scapegoat. You feel like everyone blames you for everything. So what else? Narcissistic parents, they're hot and cold. They purchase your love in different ways. It feels very transactional. You never feel fully nurtured or supported.
Sometimes they seem immature.
They'll use things like family inheritance or family this or family that to keep you locked in to the family dynamic.
Correct. Yep. They will often brag about things you've done and accomplished, but then they won't tell you good job.
Connor is saying you have to care for them all the time. You become a people pleaser to keep the peace. That's a good one. Yeah, not a good one, but it's a good example.
It's a good example. How many of us are people pleasers? Everybody?
Yeah.
Good one. Maybe blaming other people for anything that goes wrong. I don't know if you said that one. Unpredictable.
Their tempers a lot of them are ragey or yellers.
Hold a grudge like a champ.
They will make it so that you can't have friends because they will be hot and cold with who they like and who they don't like of your friends.
Yep. Well,
they will use your friends as spies to watch you.
Yep. They will take, I just talked to someone recently whose mother literally took her husband and children. Yes. Got with the husband and took the children.
Yeah.
We convinced her this was for the best in the process. I can't. Sudden mood change.
Yeah, they'll side with, I know someone going through something now and that the narcissistic parent sided with the toxic husband.
Yes, I've seen that happen often.
Because, she's so sensitive and difficult.
Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Hold on one second. I'm going to mute myself. I have someone that's waiting to speak to me. Just 1 second.
Yes. I'm going to keep going. Ellen saying blames you when something goes wrong and takes the credit when you actually do something right. That's one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
My mom talked about my friends behind their back and grinned in their face. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. I think what Connor says is on point. I'm sorry if I missed you saying it. He says, yes, I think personality disorders should be taught extensively in schools.
Oh, yeah.
As well as the stock market and campaign and economics, which I agree with all three of those on some level, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And CR was chiming in similar.
Similar. Yeah.
It would help kids realize their family dysfunction.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. I mean, it also puts you in a difficult spot.
Yeah, because then you're like, okay, now what with the kiddos? Yeah.
Okay, so the kid knows, but now what about the parents? Like,
Mm-hmm.
should we do some remedial teaching or
Yeah.
something?
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And Jack makes a valid point when he says, yeah, but narcissists can be and are in the schools, and that's the truth. However, yeah, well, I do know this much. I know that both my kids are taking some kind of a class called, I don't know, social and emotional learning or something like that, my two youngest. And I think that is a step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends, but they're in a private school, so it's a different deal at this point. Okay. Oh, you probably already read this one, but I actually said it earlier too. Ellen says blames you when something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bethany says, oh yeah, you got that one. All right, let me go to the bottom. All right, here we go. We have a question or just a statement from Bethany. Her mom tried hard to get her in on the gossip and she'd walk away and she'd be so mad. That is a big, important point.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one type of, certain types of narcissists will definitely play the gossip card.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
not all of them, but a lot of them.
Right, a lot of mothers do that.
Yes.
It's like,
Triangulation.
and have you noticed, I don't know, maybe Bethany, but maybe you do or don't notice this, their voices will change while they're gossiping.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they have the gossip tone or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, you hear it and you go, oh, no.
Not again. Yes. But I'll tell you what, walking away is the very best thing you could do.
Oh, heck yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And Jack Lehman says, yeah, his mother was also a gossip herself. Sue says, I've often thought the same thing. Often thought this topic should be taught in high schools. Ellen says her father used her sister, to get to send Facebook posts because I guess father is.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That happened to me too. My mother got my brother on her side, and it's a big ugly mess. It is what it is, but he's not in my life anymore. So,
Jody and Jenna Adventures are saying that they turn their children against each other, which is exactly what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn the siblings against one another. Mm-hmm.
Now that's a very common thing. I actually have seen extreme versions of this, and I guess my own situation is similar. But I had a client from a different country, and in their country, if the woman was divorced, she was not allowed to live by herself. Mm-hmm. And so she essentially was living in her mother's house with her sister. The mother kept them on separate ends of the house. They were both adults, and it wasn't great.
No, so you can't control an adult the same way.
Well, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
They had to sneak text on WhatsApp in order to talk to each other.
Wild. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And so Ellen's got a flying monkey for her sister. Wow, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So really quickly about flying monkeys. Some of them are well aware of what they're doing, and those are the ones that you might as well just. But those, like in the case of your sister, Ellen, I don't know if it was that she didn't really understand what your dad was doing, or that she really thought he was just worried about you, or if it was just what we were talking about. And I'm kind of feeling like maybe it's just what we were talking about. But sometimes there are situations where you have a sort of innocent flying monkey who means well. So I'm not sure if that was your same deal there or not. But any thoughts on that, Lise?
No, yeah, they use people, whether the person is in on it, like a gossip, someone who likes the attention from it, or the person is innocent, thinking they're even trying to help the situation. Right. And swoop in to say, gosh, your mom's saying this or your dad's saying that, and what can I do to help? And you're like, oh my gosh, we're triangulated into this.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
I learned that early on. Somebody said to me, don't let yourself get triangulated, stay out of it.
Yeah.
I was probably 19 or something. And I thought, what does that mean? But I realized I knew that didn't mean something good. So I thought about it and went, wait a minute. And you can make the connections. They do that to me too. Yeah.
Kind of crazy how that happens.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
For sure. I just saw something from Jack Lehman about emotional incest, which it happens a lot, and I'm not sure, I can't find it, but so emotional incest essentially being connecting with some, and it doesn't mean anything related to sex. Emotional incest is, but it's a situation where you have like let's say a parent moves out of the house or a parent dies or whatever, and then the toxic parent would sort of connect. Here's an example. So one of my former clients, or one of my longtime clients, had a father, mother passed away, father was then left to raise 3 girls. Father, people at one of the first events they had after mother passed was people came up to her and said, your sister and your dad are acting kind of weird. Is everything okay? Like, because she was acting like she was his wife.
Yeah.
And it was like, like straightening his tie and all these little wifey type things that I would say that's an example of that.
I got an example of it where like a toxic mother, you know how in the evenings when you're with your partner or a good friend, or like you get on the phone and chat with a sister or a friend or a brother or whatever, and you talk about your day and you talk about the things in life that bother you and you talk about the deep stuff, or you have these, you have those intimate conversations where they use their child for that. And
Right.
it's one thing to be close with your kid and to have good conversations, but like every night before bed
Mm-hmm.
becomes sort of like you're leaning on them to be the surrogate husband. This is after
Yes.
divorce, right? And knowing that the person is toxic, you know that they are seeking
Mm-hmm.
supply in that way. And it's
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. I don't see what okay, wait a minute. So I have to hold on. Jody and Jenna, I'm going to hide your comment, but don't think that I'm doing anything wrong here to you. I'm not still going to talk to you about it, but I can't have it on the chat, so forgive me. But essentially, what they're saying is their father took advantage of them in inappropriate ways,
Mhm.
and then they were manipulated to keep secrets.
Mhm.
And now only her sister. Oh, and she remembered, whoever wrote this comment of Jody and Jenna remembered, and the other one could only just now start to remember, because that people do black out. I think that's an important thing, that children have been manipulated in that way often by these types of parents. Do you have any experience with anything like this, or with anyone? I don't mean you personally, but
Well, I mean, when we have traumas that are crossing lines that are so confusing for
Mhm.
children and or even young adults or even whatever age, anyone really.
Yeah,
It does create this in some people in an amnesia, like literally, where
right.
don't you maybe remember something, a feeling or something about it, but you don't remember the whole thing or even that it happened. So yeah,
Right.
understood. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say really quickly to Jody and Jenna, no worries. I don't want YouTube to prevent us from being able to talk. So that's why I don't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now Ellen says, and this is a good one, I think. Ellen says really quickly, wait a minute. She had 2 narcissist parents. Her mother passed away years ago, and it took years to see it, and now she's reparenting herself. And I think, well, you and I were just talking about reparenting a
We
little bit.
were.
Yeah. So it is necessary. It's something that you must do, especially when you've been under that type of
Hmm.
extreme stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah. Oops. Okay. Let's see.
I'm reading. I think
Yeah.
that like one of the things about having a toxic parent is you have a household where you grow up where you do not have a foundation of what is healthy and what is good for you, and you don't have an awareness of who you are as a healthy person because you're not nurtured, you're not taught, you're not um, you know, given the tools.
I'm sorry.
She's got someone there. I'm like, what's happening?
Sorry, one second.
That's okay. You're not given the tools as a child and given the nurturing and the care. And so we grow up and we feel like there's something wrong with us. We feel like there's something in us that we need to fix when in fact it is the way we were brought up. So then the reparenting yourself comes in and then you know, there's just a lot of it's tangled up and messy when you have a toxic parent.
Yes. That's a very good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah. It's not, and the thing is, I don't know about you, but like for example, when I had my children, I wanted to connect, but was still unable to connect. It's a messed up thing. I don't know exactly where you were. I'm sorry because I got distracted.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. But I think that's, I wonder how many other people who, like you were kind of mentioning, I'm sorry, you were kind of mentioning something about the connection factor, and I'm sorry that I got distracted.
It's okay. We'll just go from there. What
Yeah.
do you?
So my point is that I think
hard to connect with what? With yourself or?
so if you've been in, with yourself, of course, but also like, so when my first two children, that was one of my first, that's my oldest child that just came in. And so that's why I was distracted. He's a grown up now. So he's just here for today. And I guess this is his one day off work anyway. But he was here, wait a minute back. Okay, when I had him, I wanted to connect, but couldn't quite connect because my mother was angry at the time or whatever. And then she started talking to me about 8 months into that pregnancy. But by the time I had the last one, I knew who she was. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted, especially with the last one, to connect because it was a female child. So I felt differently about that one than the first two, not in a good or bad way, just a regular,
just a different,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. So that was where I'm holding this baby and I'm looking at this female baby and I'm looking at myself and I'm thinking about all the generations that came before and after and all these, that will come after, whatever. And I had like a lot of things I wished I could have connected with a parent on. And I wonder how many other people.
Yes. Like in any time in life, like I was just talking this morning about that, like how when you don't have that growing up, I don't even know what to say. There's nowhere to find that connection and support.
Right.
And it feels really confusing. I mean, everyone's going to have their own feeling about it, like wherever your emotions are, but it's not usually, I feel solid and secure in myself. It's
right.
And that's when you go, well, where do I turn? Right. And
right. I mean, it's rough. And it's, so, I mean, you know what, though you get through it and you just yeah. And reparenting does help. I mean, it was literally like a life changer for me when there are certain exercises you can do with a therapist or whatever. I did my work mostly on my own. Because
that's how you roll, Angie.
I'm having a hard time with it.
It's all good.
We're getting there. So yeah. Anyway, I'm kind of all right. Well, anyway, my point is you become one way or the other. Some people become very clingy to their friends and family. Some people are just like the other way. Mm-hmm. Some people become loners. But then what I think we find a small inner circle, right? And I think Lise is one of my people. I think a couple other people that are working with us are some of our people. And several of our admins, of course, and mod squatters. But in general, I think that like in my everyday, I see them in real life. There are very few.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's okay with me.
Okay. I was just going to say that's just fine. Frankly, I don't have time for what it takes to put into it because partially it takes effort for me because I didn't understand it, and have it. And also I know how much I give.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And yeah. I find that same thing. And so, for example, I met a female person recently, and I don't know what else to say about that. A woman who was close to my age or whatever, and she started some weird drama that wasn't necessary, and then essentially was like, "Well, this person said you have to pick, or I have to pick between that person and you." I'm like, "Okay, well, you better pick that person. I'm not trying to ruin your friendships, And then she came back with some other strange. My point is, I've been just very disappointed in certain aspects of friendships as an adult.
I think it's interesting, yeah, but what you do learn is that you know how to implement your boundaries.
Yes,
even if it's bumpy, even if it's awkward, even if it makes you look like a mean person.
Exactly.
It's okay. Yeah. And so that's good. So that is taking care of yourself.
Yeah. So anyway, it is what it is. But I think what happens because we become so aware after we go through narcissistic abuse, if we choose to, or you and I have become, and a lot of these people here have become so aware of other people because we need to protect ourselves from toxic people that it's almost like
there's no time. I said, and there's no time for that.
That's it. That too. Time is of a premium for sure.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But the thing that I'm saying though is that when we're dealing with regular people, it's I've gotten kind of to the point where I'm like I cut them off quick. For those of you who, and I don't know, like with Dana used to have this rule. It was crazy. Something about like one sign they were out, one, and I can't remember exactly how it went. Mine's not quite that bad, but
yeah.
It's not that it's bad. I'm not quite that strict. But I do not tolerate anyone acting insane to me or trying to draw me into drama that I'm not part of or any of that. I just, nope. And I just shut right down and it works fine. I mean, I don't shut myself down. I shut down that relationship.
Right. You just change lanes. Like
you have to if it's too much.
Lanes going around you. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And that's a process that you have to learn when you have grown up being a people pleaser, isn't it?
Right. But then there's also the feeling of, but I'm lonely, but I need a friend, but yet another disappointment, and so it's, it's
challenging. There's every now and then there's a situation where I don't do so. I don't do as well. Like I had, and I won't talk about any details on that right now, but just let's say that if there were a situation where I had a friend who I'd had for a long time and I needed to have a conversation with that person.
Yeah, that's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So that again, small circle. Okay. Hello, Fatima. Let's see. Oh, Ellen. Okay. Jack said that his mother put his wife into the scapegoat role now, and he had been raised as sort of a golden child because of his grandmother. And so that's a difficult situation for anyone to be in with the scapegoat of your in-laws, in which case and the other thing in this particular case is that they are stuck because of various other things that are unrelated to the scapegoat. So I'm not going to tell their business. They can tell you if they want. Please, do you have a question from the chat, or do you have a...
let's see. I was just Enoch N saying, thanks to my narcissistic father and his short temper, my biggest struggle is anxiety. I like this one because it is pointing out how each of us might have our own struggles we can recognize and see where it came from. If anyone raises their voice at me even slightly, my heart races, my breath gets short, and I stammer. Is this PTSD? We can't diagnose you, but most likely this is a symptom of what is possibly,
sounds familiar. Yes.
It sounds familiar. And if you looked at signs and symptoms of CPTSD, you would probably find that there or something similar. Yeah. And it's definitely an emotional flashback.
Yep.
Because the person may be raising their voice not at you, but around you. And, or just maybe they talk loud, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to make it, but it's,
that's right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so, looking up emotional flashbacks, I do a lot of work with this type of thing in the group coaching, a lot. I have a lot of exercise for this that help.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't already looked at it, you should look into this group coaching program. It is amazing. Yeah. And everybody that takes it, everybody that joins has always said, really good. In fact, look, some people put their whole face on video to talk about how much they liked it.
But they do, yeah. It is. We deal with this a lot because everyone who has had a narcissist in their life for any period of time where it's long enough to affect you, which doesn't take that long, and especially when you grow up with it, you've got triggers. And you've got emotional flashbacks that happen. You have core wounds that happen from that person, and so it will. Learning coping skills to get your nervous system to calm down a little doesn't take away the trigger, but it helps you react and respond to the trigger differently.
Absolutely.
It empowers you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's really important. And I think in some ways, for some, especially, in some ways, I think a group coaching experience is a really good way to kind of get a read on, like if you're different or normal or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm not saying normal.
Exactly. No, it does validate your experience.
Yes.
For yourself. And you don't even have to say much. Just listening to other people, you can be like, oh, that's pretty normal what I'm going.
It helps. Yeah. And I think one thing that I think that almost all of us need when we go through all of this is validation. I mean, we are perpetually invalidated when you are raised by a narcissist, right? I mean, consistently ongoing, and you don't even know validation. And unless you happen to have a good teacher, or Girl Scout leader, or something like that along the way, Boy Scout leader, I don't know what people do. But unless you have another influential adult in your life, you may never get validation as a child of a narcissist.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Or an adult child of a narcissist if you want it. And so what
and
do we
if you're a golden child, you got overly validated for the wrong things and the wrong reasons.
But even then
you're stuck needing, what we need is authentic, real validation. And even then it's hard to take in when we've had, a toxic parent, because
no doubt
we can't trust it. We don't,
right. You don't know who you can believe, or
and you hear something good about yourself, or you hear something validating about you that is positive, or you hear something that's like makes you think, oh, that does happen to other people. Oh, but it's still my fault.
Right.
Because
Well, we are taught that everything is our fault. We're taught that in order to earn love, we must perform or do whatever they want us to think, do, feel, or say, So, yeah. This is an interesting one, Lise. Suze says her ex is trying to convince her young adult son that he has fear of abandonment issues and not NPD. So let's talk about that. Okay. Number one, as far as fear of abandonment, they absolutely do have fear of abandonment when they're narcissists. That's part of the reason they try to control you so much.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. But that is just one part of the disorder because we have fear of abandonment too, and we don't abuse people, right? All humans do. It's how we didn't die in the beginning. Okay. It's one of those intrinsic, deep-seated things that we all have, but when we have been raised by toxic parents, we often it's inflated for us, right? And this is true for, I'm going to guess that your narcissistic ex was also raised by someone toxic or affected by someone toxic, unless they're like famous or a few other little, suddenly rich those types of things can be acquired situational narcissism. But mostly, a large percentage of the time it's parents, not always, but a lot. So I would ask you that question. As far as you're teaching him that he's, I would just tell him the truth. Yes, that fear of abandonment is involved. However, so is lack of empathy. So is abuse. So is emotional, psychological, gaslighting, etc. All of these things are involved, and that makes it, if he is a narcissist, that would probably be the connection. Lise, thoughts?
Tell me, can you repeat the part of the question?
Yes. My narcissistic ex is trying to convince my young adult son that he has fear of abandonment issues, not NPD.
Okay, what I would tell your son, if you were having a conversation about it, if it's brought up, I don't know that I would address it too much unless it comes up, because then you're like trying to, it looks like a counterattack, right? But if you're talking about it, I would say, interesting. Okay, well, if that's true, how did he handle it? How did he help himself? What did he do? Right. We all have issues that we struggle with. Every adult, you'll have them, I have them, so-and-so's mom has them, whatever, we all have them. Right. It's how we handle our issues and how we interact with other people so that we're not taking our issues and hurting others with them. We have to be accountable for ourselves, even though we've had XYZ happen to us. Yep. And I would just leave it on the accountability factor, because that's what, knowing you can't, toxics, I know my toxic upbringer's history. I can empathize with it. I can see it like a movie playing out before me as to the reasons why, and it almost gives me a sense of like compassion for that person. But it's how they then take that and don't grow from it, but keep throwing it back on other people to make it better for them.
It's always their fault, right? Yeah,
it's always everybody else's fault, and I'm going to control others in order to make myself feel better. And sorry, I lost my compassion now. Right. And I think it's through the understanding that helps. It's not so much through words of, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I just want to add this other thing. So there's a lot of times with this type of situation, you go, well, you're sitting there blaming the parents, so what's the difference, right? Mm-hmm. Why would I blame the parent? Well, it's not just like some ideas that Lisa and I made up. Just so you know, there's a large body of research on like attachment theory and things like that, and as it goes, it's not one thing, it's your mother. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is really some validity to that.
There
And of
is.
course, your father has the ability to cause deep wounds as well. But it's almost always starts with the mother one way or the other. And I'm not saying that there are not toxic fathers. There absolutely are.
Oh, heck yeah.
But,
And they cause
right.
their own damage. Yeah.
Yeah, their own damage. Right. But the toxic mothers, from day one could positively or negatively affect who you become by whether they choose to breastfeed or not, whether they choose to hold you skin to skin, whether they choose, could go all the way from like, about reactive attachment disorder, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if a child is cared for physically, but never picked up and loved, they don't attach to people in a normal way ever again. And it's really that important, those first few months, few hours, all of that. So it's a fascinating body of study out there that it's not something that we're making up. We're not telling everybody this because of your parents. We're telling you the facts as we understand them. So I wanted to point that out for anyone who's like, but wait a minute, you guys are blaming somebody. Okay, moving on.
We're not blaming. No, in fact, I'm not blaming there. What I'm saying is,
I know
that there needs to be responsibility and account. We have to take accountability. Yes, we're survivors of toxic people, but if we go then and hurt others with it, and we will at times, it'll happen. It happens because we don't know. Right. We've got to flee. We've this, that, the other, right? We're hurt. We're triggered. We're whatever. We take accountability for the action that then causes any hurt to someone else, and we are then repairing the relationship instead of trying to control and hurt someone else.
Yeah. That's right. So, and even when you do, if you as you're raising children, like before we knew about this, right? Yeah. Maybe we didn't do something we were supposed to do. Like I was probably I'm still probably way too permissive. I don't mean in a way. I just mean like.
No, I understand because it's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want my children to be heard and seen, and I was not. And so I probably go way. People don't understand why I let them have as much pull as they do, but it's because. And it's working mostly. I see them blossoming into some amazing people. So, but again, sometimes when they were younger, maybe I didn't understand what was happening. Maybe I was too sad sometimes or too whatever, and that was probably not very helpful. And
right. And it's nothing you can help. You shouldn't beat yourself up for it.
Right.
But you can take accountability for it and then kind of work with it to heal it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can, and you can start wherever you are. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's the difference, though, between us and a narcissist is that most people who have survived and choose to heal and move forward, they can look back and go, I messed up, crap. And then go and talk to someone and say, hey, kid, I'm sorry that I was this way. Or, hey, best friend, I'm sorry that I was that way or whatever. Right.
That must have hurt when I was feeling sad all the time. I bet. How did that make you feel?
Right.
No narcissist is going to ask that and care what the answer is, right? They may ask it to manipulate you back to thinking that they're doing some work, but.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I think it's really important for parents to admit and acknowledge to their children who are old enough to understand, listen, I know I wasn't perfect. And, if I've caused any trauma, whatever, let's talk about it. It's hard to hear it sometimes. Mm-hmm. And sometimes on the plus side, though, you recognize this because my youngest has recently informed me of a couple of traumas, and you realize when you hear them that yes, they're important and they matter, but sometimes their traumas are.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You did good. You did good. Well, Yeah, parents know. And thank goodness. That's all I'm going to say. Thank goodness. Yeah. So, hard to raise kids. All right.
It's raising here.
The other thing is, and I'm not trying to make anyone feel sorry for their parents, but there is a fact here that we need to think about, and that is that number one, those parents of yours were probably raised by a toxic person also, or like we talked about, or somehow influenced by some toxic forces in childhood. They had trauma, just like we did. Maybe not as bad. But I've noticed something interesting, where when you see a line of people. For example, I have one client who her father was raised by really, really poor people who beat the crap out of them and never gave him nice clothes to wear. And his whole his two biggest things about being in childhood were I hated being poor, I hated not having clothes to wear to school, and having to wear old, raggedy, yucky stuff, right? So what did he do? Well, and he was also beaten and all this other stuff. So he had his child, and then he did not beat her, and he bought her all the clothes, and he gave her a beautiful place to live and a beautiful life. But he did not emotionally connect with her. And in fact, he emotionally abused her in that process.
Mm-hmm.
Now she comes along, and now she's got, he broke what his curse, right?
Uh-huh.
And so now she's here and she's mad about being emotionally neglected and abused. But when she has her child, she's going to stop that part. You know what I mean? And I can do that same thing with my own family as well. So on one level, there is the possibility that we can break the cycle altogether, right? And we try. But on another level, it does come through the family. And it's not because the family is genetically predisposed to it. It's because the family is toxic.
Because you have to make a choice, and it is an active and difficult choice to break these cycles within yourself as you're raising the next generation. It is not easy, and there are so many fragments and pieces of it that you could miss one really, really easily, and you will probably miss one or two. You know, it's it just shows in that story how when a narcissist changes, they change for themselves. They change, and what they're doing in life is trying to control relationships to make their version of the world what they want it to be. Instead of having relationships that then create a world that is better for everybody.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's an ugly situation.
Really, it's very, yeah.
Oh, anywho, so basically, I think what's important to remember is that they may not have done it because they wanted to hurt. Okay. And the only reason I'm saying this is because you may choose to not have empathy for them, and that's okay, because I support your choice to feel whatever you want to feel. Your feelings are valid. Okay. I had to get to a point in my own healing where I had to let go of the anger because it was killing me. Okay. And so when that happened, I'm still a little mad about one situation, which we talked about last week. Okay. but in general, what I have found to be very effective is to recognize what the situation was for them as much as you can. Sometimes you don't know, so you can't even do that. But if you do know, you can recognize, okay, this is what happened to them. And so they didn't have the tools to be the sort of parent that I needed for whatever reason. And so I had to be dealing with that. Well, you know, let me just say this one thing and then I'm going to stop talking. Our larger mission at Queen Being is to break this cycle, generationally speaking, right? So we want to be better for our children so they can be better for their children, and so on and so forth. I know we don't all have children, but since we're talking about parents, I'm just throwing it in.
One person is children. It can be the way we treat our job, the way we treat our friendships, and that then spreads further into the world. It's not
excellent. True.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It can be broken even if you don't have children. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Through the way you handle life.
I totally agree. And I have several clients who don't have children by choice because of narcissistic parents. So I fully respect and and appreciate that they chose that, and whatever you choose is always, I'm like, live and let live, y'all. Okay. Not telling you what to do. Okay. Do you have any questions from the people?
I've been listening to you, so
sorry about that.
I can't do two things at once real well.
I'm not that good at it either. I think I am, and then I watch the videos back and I'm like, oh crap, I totally missed that point that we just
I do that too. Yeah.
It's hard. It is hard to do sometimes.
But I realize all my battles now will make my grandchildren's life healthier. This is Ellen.
Good. Good. I got one from Jody. It's her first live. Jody Landis. Hello and welcome. We're happy to have you. Yes. Okay. Bethany says her mother had to know everything, and her dad and her father and herself were not inquisitive like her, and she couldn't stand it. That's interesting. Ooh, a lot of guilt tripping, says Fatima. Hey, Fatima, how is your situation? Are you still at home? If you don't mind, I would be interested in knowing. Bethany said, I already said that one. Any other comments you want to read or thoughts? Because I don't want to just be
anything with a question mark or a question and see if there's anything. Adrian is asking, what do we think about narcissistic and schizophrenic? I think anytime you have a comorbid diagnosis, you're going to have a much more complex situation. So I don't know what you mean by what do we think about it. I think obviously you can have narcissism with any other diagnosis in the world. Right. It's like, it's not, and
certain diagnoses may almost lend to it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. And so I can see how I think what you're going to notice it then is how it plays out because of the schizophrenia diagnosis and
Right.
how the narcissism plays out and how they interweave together. And I guess, I mean, to me, that's what's interesting is how it's like, say you have an alcoholic who's a narcissist and how those two things fit together. That doesn't mean you take away the alcoholism and the person's not a narcissist. Most likely, nope. You know,
Yeah.
and in fact, what I hear over and over again is, oh my gosh, it's actually worse. Or now they're covert.
Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah, I guess it would play out similarly.
I think so. And I think the most important thing to remember is that, for me anyway, when I'm defining a narcissist, whether I'm talking about narcissistic personality disorder or anything else, anybody on that cluster B spectrum above from narcissist and up, not always BPD. BPD people usually have empathy, even if they don't always express it. And I'm talking about borderline right there. But we see that narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths, they don't have empathy. They have cognitive empathy. They can logically understand, but they don't give a poo about how you feel or what they do, how it affects you. And that's why they're toxic, in my opinion. That's where it all starts. What about you, Lise?
Yeah, oh, I agree. That and then the next step is the lack of accountability. Why don't they have accountability? Why should they? They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't.
Nope.
Yeah. And anytime they pretend to have accountability, it's because they want something from you. They're manipulating. They don't really care.
They buy you the nice clothes and give you the nice house and then completely emotionally hurt you. So
Yes.
that's not care. That's just that is ownership.
Right. And not all narcissists beat their children, and not all narcissists publicly whatever. It's this is why it's so difficult and why it's so pervasive. It's difficult to understand how this person who might be like some pillar of the community, for example, could also go home and do these horrible things to you or say these horrible things to you behind closed doors. You know what I mean? It's the whole life of, and then this is the person who also in many cases, well, since we're talking about parents here, in all cases, raised you. And the person who told you what the world was, the person who showed you their perception of the world and told you you were bad and wrong for being part of it, right? I mean, it's a real mind mess. Right? Okay. Any other thoughts on this today? Wait a minute, one more. Hold on. I'm so sorry. I think this is really important. Ellen says, I thought I wanted my children. I don't know if you read this, but I want to just, I thought I wanted my children to know my parents, but being the scapegoat, I am blessed that these toxic people were taken out of my life. Yeah, that's, I am on the same boat. And my oldest did have the opportunity to know them. My younger two were kind of pushed away. And then they were gone because I went no contact, and that was that, you know, but it was very difficult and ugly, and I don't like it. It's hard to not have grandparents for your children. We did have a grandmother, and she passed away, unfortunately, several years ago. That was my husband's mom. But yeah. Anyway. Sorry, Lise, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm just skimming through. There's a lot of good comments here, but
I know.
I'm trying to find questions just to like help people if they need it. Is it true, Jody Landis is saying, is it true that once you're the scapegoat, you'll forever be one in other situations also?
Can I say?
Yes and no to me, but what do you think?
Exactly that. Yeah. Because you will, in some situations, some families, your role rotates. Sometimes you're the golden child, sometimes you're the scapegoat, sometimes you're invisible, you rotate. But then there are those who put you in those solid places. And then there are situations where you can't be the scapegoat or you, it's about changing your perception and your boundaries, I think, as an adult.
Right. Yeah. If you have a situation where like say you're very competent at your job and say you love it and that is your passion and you're not a scapegoat there. Like say that like that can happen where you have
can validate you too.
Particular area of your life where you just thrive or you just fit, right? And you're not a scapegoat there. But then every relationship you have, people are, and you're going, wait, what? Am I supposed to just do this one thing? You know? And so yes and no. Yes, partially it's because of the people pleasing. It's because of the way we feel about ourselves. It's because we don't know how to set boundaries and feel okay about it. And It's a lot of things, and it's not your fault that these things happen. It's that we have to then like unlearn what we were taught and relearn we're a whole human being that sometimes is right and sometimes is wrong, and like,
It's yeah. And then you have people who people who think, oh, there's a demon in my parent, or oh, but that's still my parent. I still have to, and that's cool. But I think it's really, for me, not everybody needs what I need. And I think a lot of you need what I need and what Lise needs. We need to understand why this is happening. Mm-hmm. What has happened? We need to know why. We need to understand the science beneath it. For me, that part alone helps take away the sting of, instead of sitting around and now you still have to feel your emotions. Let me reiterate, because I did not do that first. But in general, for me to step away emotionally and logically see it like a scientist, and then later to come back and connect my emotions, that was helpful in my healing. And so I think that a lot of people that follow me, and Lise as well, maybe, do you feel that way, Lise? Do you feel like you needed to understand before you could?
Absolutely, because the emotions feel like being lost at sea.
Yes.
And there's so many of them, you don't know what it is you're feeling, and you don't know which ones are yours and which ones were put there. And you do know that you flip it all around and scapegoat yourself and make it about we gaslight ourselves, we scapegoat, we make ourselves the scapegoat. So if I would say to that other question, if you find yourself always making you're wrong for everything, you beat yourself up inside, you are scapegoating yourself in life, then that may be a place to work to change so that you aren't following the same pattern in the rest of your life with people. But I think that understanding, like coming back to yours, understanding helps separate the two.
Yes.
So that then you can process the emotions.
Right. See, some people, that's right. And I think some people need a different type of recovery, right? Like some people want to be treated. I'm not talking bad about anyone. I'm just going to say this. Some people don't want to know all the things.
No.
Some people do. Some people need to analyze and understand before they can work through the feelings. And I think those are smart people. Okay. And I don't mean any disrespect to anyone else, but I do think this. I think, I used to even say on my narcissistic abuse recovery for smart people on my channel, because I don't really have any dumb followers. Everybody that comes to my streams, everybody that's on my subscriber list, I think the same is true for Lise. We only have smart people. And that's because you guys understand and you're capable of digging deeper, right? Do you think that's true, Lise?
Oh, I think that's true. And I think that and aside from that, I actually really like working with different types of people.
For sure.
And figuring out what it is, because some people are so close to their emotions.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing at all. It's just how they personally process. When we have toxic people in our life, everyone's going to handle the trauma of it in their own way. And what I have found is there's about 5 or 6 different ways. There's the highly emotional type. There's the analytical type like us. There's the people who want to talk about everything on the surface and not go deep, but they know they need to. There's the, there's those that want to talk about the other person only and don't want to, they are deflectors, avoidant. There's like different types of the way that this type of upbringing affects.
But all those people are smart. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay, yeah, they're all smart. Yeah,
That's what I found. Yeah.
Smart. Yeah.
Right. And the only reason I want to point that, and you're saying absolutely accurate and better stuff than I said, by the way.
Oh, it's better.
But, no, it's better. Because I sound funny when I say that, but I've never met a follower or a client or a group member who was not pretty freaking smart.
Right. I think most people I've talked to, one of the more common things I will tell them is, my gosh, you're brilliant. Right. Or wow, you're really intelligent, or you're a smart person. There's always,
Right. And so and I'm just saying this because I think you all need to know this. Not only are they intelligent, but they're attractive. And you know why? Because narcissists, they don't take.
Well, why? Yeah.
They're not interested in ugly, unintelligent people.
Pretty and smart. And
it's true. So I'm just saying.
And kind and loving and
yes, all of those things. And it's a good thing. And then people sometimes don't like me or don't like somebody else. And I'm like, that's okay. Because you guys can go over there to that person. She's younger and hotter. He's older and more male or whatever. I don't
Whatever
care.
it is. Yeah, have at it.
My point is only this. My point is you connect with who you connect with. And
Yep.
I think I'm lucky to connect with some really smart people. That's all.
That's right.
Hello, Dolce Sueños. Thank you for the super chat, the super sticker. It is so cute. It's a little lemon.
Lemon.
Thank you. I love that so much. It's so cute. Alrighty. I wonder if I get to save these. Okay. Anyway, thank you. Okay. Sorry, I got all carried away with talking about how amazing y'all are. I'll apologize.
Yeah, you are.
But you really are. Yeah. And somebody needs to tell you. So we're going to tell you.
Well, yeah. And here's the thing, like any validation that comes out of Angie's mouth is real. Any validation that comes out of my mouth is real. I don't make it up. I just won't say anything if I have nothing to say. And if I'm not saying something to you and you know me, it's not because I have nothing to say. Sometimes I just forget to spill it out.
Well, we're a little scattered at times.
You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like anything, it's authentically real. We're not just saying this because from experience of dealing and talking with and having the community of so many people for so many years that you actually are saying something real here. And that is y'all are smart, you're intelligent, and
we know that because you understand us and you're on the same wavelength, I think.
Yeah,
and I think and when we talk about two people individually, of course.
Of course, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think we're a lucky tribe. So anyway, okay, let's see. What are we doing on time? Okay, I've got about one more minute. Do you want to check and see if there's any other questions you want to pull out?
Let's see. What do we got? I closed it. Oh no, I didn't. Okay. What do we have?
Ellen says, I feel like an OG because back when I went through all this and I was divorced, there was no information out there about it, but I followed my instinct and now our children have access. We didn't. I love that. And that's kind of what I'm doing. When I started researching this, it was like 2005, 2006. And I started writing about it around that time. And then I got on YouTube, like I think 2013 or 2014 or 2015 as officially. And since then have continued, of course. And it's really, really helped a lot of people. and now there are hundreds and thousands of people doing what we do, and that's great. But I'm with you on the OG status, Ellen. I am. What were you going to say, Lise?
Oh, I'm just, I said, the lemon.
Isn't the lemon cute?
Yeah. Somebody said something. Ciara said, they're talking to Bethany, but they said, thankfully we see narcissistic patterns. I wonder how we don't have those patterns within ourselves. Does that make sense? And I don't know what Bethany said, but it just related to that. We do have them. We direct them at ourselves. We need to, that's what I was talking about with the scapegoating ourselves. We can often have the toxic patterns imprinted up here that we need to heal and unhook and rewire our brains so that we treat ourselves better. We don't have them toward other people because there's two factors we just talked about. We have empathy. We care how other people feel. We're not just people pleasing to serve us. We are people pleasing because we want others to not hurt. And and we have accountability. We take accountability for the times when we gaslight someone, say, and we go, oops, I just tried to convince them that they want to see a movie that I know they hate, whatever, and something, and we go, sorry, I know you probably are going to hate this movie. That was totally me wanting to go. We take accountability in our lives. And so that's why, even though we're trained with these behaviors, we don't carry them on to other people. That's a couple reasons.
That's really smart. Yeah. And just really quick, an example on that. I think I told you guys this, but really quick. So when I was pregnant with my oldest, my friend had a baby 3 or 4 months earlier. And I didn't think she was as together as me at the time because she kept telling me how hard it was to be a mom and how babies are so difficult, on and on. And I thought, I'm going to be better than that. She's just a wimp. I really thought things like that. I called her and apologized to her like 2 or 3 weeks after my baby was born because I was wrong. I'm so sorry. She's like, you didn't even tell me. You just thought that. I'm like, I need to apologize because I was, okay. Moving on.
That is taking accountability. We don't often know that what we're doing is hurtful.
Right.
Hurtful. I don't want to say toxic. That wasn't necessarily toxic.
I didn't even hurt her with it.
It was more smug. It was more smug in your own mind, right?
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, no.
But you take accountability because you catch yourself
Yes.
And you go, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't serve the life I want to, the person I am, the person I want
That's
to be.
right.
Yeah, and it doesn't help other people. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I tell you, the older I get, the more I think, I want to just be as transparently myself as I can be with everyone that is around me, and, but I spent my whole first half of life trying to present an image that somebody else wanted me to present.
Oh my gosh.
Now I just don't
I
even
have
care
some
anymore.
song lyrics to share with you. Yeah.
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 That's
Uh-huh.
it. Yep. All right. I know you've got a call and I've got another one. So, um, any last words, guys, real quick. I'll say this and then I'll ask you that, Lise. I'm sorry. Real quick. Simmarine will be putting reminders in the chat so that you know where to go find us and how to get back here and all this other stuff when we do this. Lise, when is your next live stream?
Live stream tomorrow, unless I can manage today, but I think I'm pretty booked. So tomorrow, yeah, we'll meet over there on my channel. So you got to flip on over to the other channel, which is it Lise Colucci Narcissist? Let me see. What's its name?
Lise Colucci. If you just type Lise Colucci, you'll find her.
Lise, guys, not Lisa.
Yes,
Lise Colucci, Colucci. And
see the name on the screen.
It's on there.
Also, Simmarine will give you a link to the channel, so make sure you subscribe over there too. And also, you can send a text to 33222, the word Lise Live, all one word, LISELIVE, and or ANG. Well, send one to Lise Live because whenever I go live, it's mostly with Lise.
Okay. Then you'll get the notifications of both.
Yeah, just do that. Yeah. Okay. What else? Let's see here. I think that's it. So I want to answer all of your questions, and I'm so sorry that I am missing some today, but we'll be back here next week. As Simmarine will tell you in the chat. Lise, your turn. Any last words?
Oh my gosh. Good to see you today. No, it's good. Yeah. Good talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Good one today. All right, guys. If you have suggestions or ideas for chat our future sessions, or you want to know more about this stuff, let us know in the comments. I have tons of videos on toxic families and narcissistic mothers and fathers, and so does Lise, I think.
Yes.
So make sure you check those out if you're interested, and we will talk to you next week. Lise will see you tomorrow over on her channel. Thanks to our Mod Squad for being here, and thanks to Lise and all of you. We appreciate you. Thank you. We'll see you next week. All right. Bye-bye. Now I have to figure out how to.